What's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of BK Apologetics, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? So it's Monday. Things are as crazy as it always is. Living a Philip K. Dick novel, just this dystopian environment that we reside in. I mean,
right.
The new normal, something crazy, but
it's crazy.
We are not alone, right? We got each other, and I got with me right now my man Adam Coleman. What's going on, sir?
What's good, man? Glad to be back on with the BK Apologists out here, man. What's happening with you?
Oh man, just watching Damon Richardson break the internet. The usual.
Right. Was that cartoon Wreck-It Ralph breaks the internet? Like you know what I'm saying? I think Damon was on his Wreck-It Ralph with this jank, man. He just
it was amazing.
Right.
But let's talk to the people who's in the check-in. We got LOV. What's going on?
All right, let me get over these live comments here.
We got Shepard in the building.
Oh, man, we got some cats in the building right now. All right.
Yeah, man. We got Ken Floyd in the building.
Mm-hmm.
We got Miss Titus too. What up? My man, they shook.
Yo, share up. I'm about to share it right now.
I feel like I'm waiting in the line to get into the club. You funny, CP. Is this your king? Man, I think quite a few people watch this. What's going on, Brown? What's going on? Listen, man, I need you guys to really, please share the link. You know what I mean? We need you to get this out there. I mean, this is important. This is basically a town hall meeting of sorts, right? But we have to discuss this. This is monumental.
Shout out to Benjamin Dixon in the building. What up, Benjamin Dixon? What's happening with you?
Right? Come on, guys. We need you to like, share, and subscribe. Please do that. And since we're here, as always, I got to do my plug, my shameless plug. May 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have one of my favorite scholars in the building, Dr. Michael Heiser, and we're going to discuss the unseen realm of apologetics, right? And just to give you a quick overview, right, just to whet your appetite, right, we're going to talk about how the work that he has, brought for us, how it helped so much when it comes to urban apologetics, right? And how it overlaps. A lot of his work overlaps with a lot of the stuff that we have to contend with, right? But then we're going to look at it from the unseen realm perspective, right? Because we know that a lot of these teachings, right, Paul tells Timothy that they come from deceiving spirits, right? Mm. So we're going to see what spiritual ramifications are occurring when somebody's defending the gospel against false doctrine, right? Because we always think of just one plane of existence. I'm here, this person's here, and they want to teach this false doctrine. You're refuting it. But what's going on while the refutation is occurring in the unseen realm, right? Plus a bunch of other questions I will ask them as well, so the Q&A will be lit, so please be in the building for that. And we just finished having a quite interesting discussion on Adam Coleman's channel. If you haven't seen it, please do.
Right.
What were we talking about in your channel on Saturday, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm laughing, but just it's one of those tough subjects where I lose subscribers, at least initially. I'm not sure if I lost any on this one though, which is I was surprised by it, pleasantly surprised. But actually, we talked about the Arbery case, what I'm saying, which obviously every day people being hit in the head with that. But more specifically, we were talking about how Christians should view injustice. So we were dealing with the Arbery case, but really we use that as kind of a jumping off point to deal with a broader subject of how Christians should deal with injustice. And, the short answer is we need to get our hands dirty, in addressing the evils that we come across in this world. We have the biblical worldview, which entails a lot of things like God's objective goodness, compassion, and so forth. And we need to be exemplifying those things. And so, getting involved in our communities, getting involved in really the well-being of others is a part of that. So, I definitely encourage y'all to check that out, man. If you haven't seen it, we definitely check that out. I got about as unhinged as I probably do. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very composed guy, but I had some things I had to say.
I don't feel like you was unhinged at all, bro. I mean, I feel like you was just very impassioned about the subject matter, and it came through, which is fine.
You know what's funny is that my wife jokes on me, like when we first got married, like she joked on me because she was like, the more upset I get, the quieter I get. So it's like I talk slower and quieter the more upset I get.
That's actually more scarier.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I wasn't mad at her. She just observed.
The dude that screams, "Yo, I'm gonna do this." That's not the scary dude. It's the dude that keeps his even kill, and he's like, "You know what? This is what I'm gonna do to you." That's the scary guy. That's the scary guy.
Well, it wasn't direct. Let me clarify, because Cass would chop this video. The anger wasn't directed at her.
Right.
How I deal with other people, and she was making that observation. So let's people take that out of context. Let me just go ahead and clarify that right there. You know how the internet is, man. But anyway, I think on that episode where you was on the show, man, just a couple of days ago. That's probably about as amped as I get. You know what I mean? So I hope people, check that out and really hear my heart behind it.
Yo, Benjamin said I got some heat when I shared that video, Adam. Oh, man.
Oh, I believe it. So did I. Some cats, hopped on the YouTube chat and.
Yeah, I saw some of the comments later. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I had to explain some things. You know what I'm saying? As best I could in a way that hopefully people can understand. So, yeah, man.
What's going on, land? Peace to BK and brother Adam.
What up,
MJ, early, being messy early. The real gift of God is here at Nate 2D2. Why you leave Nate alone, man? That's family, man. Come on. Both of you are gifts of God, in my opinion. You can share the moniker. It's okay. Unless you want to do like a URL rap battle on my channel for the title. And,
Oh, snap.
That'd be kind of dope.
They might have bars, yo.
Hey, you never know, man.
You just don't know. There's so many question marks, man. Nate, he's
everywhere. Just like I got unexpected heat too. Let me find out.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Woo-oh. Everybody's feeling brave today. I like that.
Apparently. So I mean, if y'all got heat from that, then I mean, as things go on, I probably will be addressing that issue more. So some more heat will be coming. I'll just leave it at that.
So So it's Saturday. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When it was what? Late morning, early afternoon, Saturday?
Yeah, like early afternoon, yeah.
Right? I'm minding my business, right? I'm not bothering nobody. I'm sheltering in place. I'm in New York City, right? Pandemic's going on. I'm just chilling. I'm not bothering nobody, right? So I get a notification from Eric Mason saying Eric Mason mentioned you on a thread. I'm like, why is Dr. Mason mentioning me? So, I go check it, and he tagged me into a very vigorous discussion between Damon Richardson and Brother POLIGHT. And of course, the title of the discussion was that the debate is over. It's no longer happening, right? And we just want to talk about a few things before we have the good Brother Richardson come in.
Oh yeah, Damon will be here. He's on his way.
He's on his way. Yeah. We're just setting the path, we're just setting the tone. So when he comes in with the flamethrower, you know what I mean, that we're ready for that.
I'm on my John the Baptist right now. That's
basically
right now. I'm John the
basically,
Baptist.
We're Silver Surfer, he's Galactus, right? Super nerd reference, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I was pumped. Yeah, we were all pumped for this debate, man.
Yeah.
It was all. You know what I mean? Yes, Black Christians too. Yeah, we're blurs. We're blurs. We're Black nerds. We wear that with pride. So, right? So we heard a lot of things being said, right? So what I want to do is, talk about a few things. So let me share my screen real quick, right? What happened to the debate?
What had
happened was, so just so you know who we're dealing with, right? Damon Richardson is a native of Queens, New York, spent his formative years raised in a Muslim household where he was taught and practiced the tenets of Islam through the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. He became a born-again believer of Jesus Christ at the age of 16 and began preaching a year later. Damon is an itinerant Bible teacher and founder of Urban Logia, a Christian theological and apologetics resource that specializes in urban apologetics, which seeks to dispel the myths and untruths about Christianity, which he was going to do with Brother Polite, equip believers to intelligently articulate the basis of their faith, develop a solid systematic theology and doctrinal foundation, and to help them become conversant with the various theologies, ideologies, and worldviews that oppose the Christian faith. Damon holds Master of Arts in Religious Studies from Beulah Heights University, where he's currently pursuing a PhD in leadership. He has done additional graduate studies at Virginia Union University, Samuel Devitt Proctor School of Theology, Regent University School of Divinity, and St. Petersburg Seminary and Yeshiva. His ministry spans 28 years, and he has pastored churches in Brooklyn, New York, Michigan, and in Florida. He's married to Nadine Richardson of Jamaica. Jamaica, what's that?
Queens?
Washington? What's that initial? What state is that?
I don't know.
Oh, West Indies. Maybe he means the actual Jamaica. Right? Could that be it?
Yeah,
I know he's Jamaican, right?
Yeah, that might be right.
All right. And is the father of 3 boys and 1 girl, Jalen, Chandler, Amari, and Nyasia. He is also a former elementary and special education teacher. So the man has lived an incredible educational career thus far.
Honestly,
right?
you can sum all that up and just say Damon is a beast. That's what
basically.
Basically, he is the conscious community's worst nightmare. That's what he is.
Right. He is what they are not.
Hey, I'm telling you, man. Like, look. And I mean, I'm not trying to listen. I'm not the kind of guy to be like on some fanboy stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I have a great deal of respect for Damon Richardson, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a Christian or because I'm also in the apologetics community. Like, cats don't understand, yo. Like, like Damon is a whole different deal, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, cats see him like on these lives, and when he's like doing it, when he's in his rant mode, he can go with anybody. But like when it comes to the kinds of things that he teaches on. Like, this man can go off the top of the dome. I've seen him do it. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's not like he's just like somebody who just kind of regurgitating notes. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude really knows his stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think, and I guess maybe we'll get into it, but that's why I think, Polite is with good reason very hesitant about getting in the ring with this.
Right.
I would
because he's a hybrid. Yeah. Right? He's a hybrid. It's kind of like his rap reference, right? Jadakiss, right?
Right.
Jadakiss is when he's not a battle rapper, but his style lends itself for battle rap because he's a punchline. He's a punchline / gangster rapper, right?
Yeah.
So Damon is a hybrid, right? Because he's a theologian, but he loves getting into ring with people. He likes to mix it up.
Yeah.
Right. And he has the appropriate demeanor, right, and showmanship, which the conscious community loves. Right, he has the rhetoric on Smash, but he also has the logic and reason on Smash too.
Now here's the thing about it, man. I don't know.
Right. Well, I was trying to be nice, but Thomas White really said the truth. Part scholar, part thug. You right, bro.
He's a thug.
I was trying to make it pretty.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that with debates, I don't know how far afield we want to go with this, but I think that what you mentioned about like logic, I think that's very key. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, like kind of using the rap analogy again. You have some dudes who are like great freestylers. You know what I'm saying? They can freestyle their tail off, but they can't write to save their life. You know what I'm saying? They really can't write a song, compose a song, put an album together. You know what I'm saying? Then you have other dudes who, maybe they can't, really freestyle like that, but they're just lyrical beasts. They can their pen game is nasty. You know what I'm saying? Damon is kind of like one of those dudes who's got a pen game, but if you test him, he can go, the freestyle route as well. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not saying it because I'm not just trying to hype him up. I've seen him do it, like in person. I've seen him engage with people, directly, and I've seen him do it. You know what I mean? So I know that he's got the capability as a debater, in addition to his scholarly background. You know what I mean?
Right. So I mean, even before we can even really get into it, right? I think there's a big question, and I've seen people ask this question since this conversation has taken place. Is, well, should Christians be involved in debates to begin with? Right? Now, let me ask the chat. Should Christians be debating the Word of God with non-believers or with anyone for that matter? What does the chat say? Is it yay or nay? Should Christians be debating?
Good question.
Let's see what you guys think. Should Christians spend time debating with other people about the authenticity of Scripture, the historicity of Jesus? Should we be doing that? I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Absolutely. Yes. 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 Indeed. Will Garfield from Dagger Squad step up debate Damon? Hey, well, we know Damon ain't scared, so
right.
It's up to Garfield.
I think Garfield probably would, to be honest with you. Like, I think Garfield, he's one of the few guys that I think is, I take him to be like genuine and like he believes what he believes, and I don't think he's blowing smoke. And I think I think he probably would get in the ring. I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't. But but yeah, I mean, I think he probably would. I think he probably
right. So for those who if you come across people who say we shouldn't debate, right? You could always share this scripture. And it's Acts 8:28. And this is Paul, for he powerfully refuted the Jews in public, showing by the scriptures that Christ was Jesus. Now, what does the word refuted mean in the Greek, right? And it's I said it before, diaikomi. Wow.
You got me on that one, yeah.
It says, and the word means to contrary to, down against, convict, proving what is wrong or shameful, properly, to prove all the way through, literally back and forth until finish, figuratively demonstrating an idea, thesis, is true by completely refuting what opposes it, i.e., to fully prevail in a debate by also putting down what is wrong or wrongly opposes the truth. And this word is only used in the scripture I just quoted, Acts 18:28.
Mm-hmm.
So we have precedent for debating. This is what Paul did.
Right. Well, let me add too, is that I think one thing to clarify is I don't know any apologist that believes that you can debate somebody into the kingdom per se. I'm saying just like debate in and of itself. I mean, I think it's understood amongst everybody that I'm associated with or that I'm aware of that, debating the uses of argumentation and evidence, for the biblical worldview, for the faith, for the gospel is a mechanism or a tool that the Holy Spirit can use, right? As, as we minister the gospel, you know what I'm saying? So it's not debating in and of itself that's going to do the job, right? We're just basically using argumentation and evidence so that the Holy Spirit can take hold of those things, work on somebody's heart and mind, and then preferably draw him to the Father, draw him or her to the Father.
Right. Carmel asked a good question. What scripture they take out of context to say we are not supposed to debate? I think it's the one when Paul talks to Timothy about we shouldn't quarrel about words, right? But then again, when you look at it from the Koine Greek, it's talking about just a mindless discussion about things without any particular end goal in mind. That's actually what he's conveying to Timothy, And if you heard what Damon said during the conversation, during the live, he's like, I want to do this so that I can convey the gospel.
Yeah, right? He's very clear about that. Yeah.
That's it. He's very clear about that. That's the end game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that scripture about just quarreling with words didn't apply in this particular situation at all.
Mm-hmm.
Dixon wants to know, are we precepts?
Yeah, so I'm kind of I would not classify myself as being precept. I will say that the more I read of it, you know what I'm saying, I'm less what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I was never like anti-precept. I mean, I would never go that far because I think as long as you're, uplifting the cross, then I don't have a problem with you. That was my stance before. I think precept is largely misunderstood, and I think precept properly understood, I think is not problematic. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I approach it. But I wouldn't classify myself that way. But I do think that put it this way, I do employ some precept lines of reasoning at times, you know what I'm saying, when it's, ultimately serves, getting the gospel, in somebody's face more so than maybe some other strategy would. So
Right.
I think that there's some tools in the toolbox that anybody can draw from, whether you're a precept or not, but sometimes it may have a precept leaning, if you will.
No, I definitely agree with that. To me, it's another tool in my utility belt of apologetics, right? I'll use that if that works. If it's evidential apologetics, I'll use that. If it's some philosophical argumentation, for the existence of God, I'll use that. Personal testimony and how God has blessed you in your life, how you've been able to overcome obstacles because of this worldview. Like whatever's going to help that person to understand the gospel, I got no problem with, as long as it's not against the gospel, right?
Right.
So
now,
I'm very open.
I mean, I'm going to say straight up, I think that you have a lot of people out there who have come across precept, that framework for doing apologetics, like maybe on the internet, and they haven't taken the time to dig deeper to where they can really draw out some of the strengths of the precept position. And so I would encourage people, don't just kind of take like an internet-based version of it. You can really dig your teeth into presuppositionalism, and I think come across with something that can be effective. And I would encourage people to check out Vocab Malone's channel. He just did a whole show with a team of individuals who identify, I don't know if that's too, well, anyway, they claim to be precept. Matt Jackson, as a matter of fact, he's in the chat right now. He identifies as presuppositional. Definitely getting into the works of John Frame and whatnot. So I would highly recommend Matt Jackson's work. Like I said, Vocab Malone is a very strong precept. Tyler Vela, and there's a number of others too. So shout out to my precept brothers and sisters out there, man. Look, got love for y'all.
No, well, like I just said, Carmel, no, I'm not precept.
I'm sorry. That's
I'm
my
not precept.
Yeah.
No. But like he said, there are variations of it that I feel like are effective in a conversation with people.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, I'm open to anything that's going to help somebody understand the gospel clearer.
Yeah.
As long as the technique, quote unquote, if you will, is not antithetical to the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's really important. So yeah, whatever helps, whether it's personal testimony, whether it's evidential, philosophical, your own experience, a rap battle, whatever it takes, whatever.
Shout out to A-Ward. Shout out to A-Ward, the Saga. Shout out to Loso.
Right.
Man, all them guys, man. Street hymns. That can be effective in their context. You know what I mean?
So let's now look a little bit because there's backstory behind what we saw on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So this is not that readable, but I'll read it for you. So this is January 14th, and it says debate update. We just got off the phone with Brother POLIGHT, very cordial, respectful conversation, and we were able to come to agreement on the need for the debate and the topic, which is, did Jesus exist historically, or is he an invention of Christianity? We also agreed on 3 subtopics, and we're still working out other logistics such as venue and date, but tentatively it will be held in the summer, either in Brooklyn or Harlem, and it will be live streamed. More details to come. I love to keep dialogue around the debate respectful, as he stated numerous times during our discussion that he has a very high respect and regard for me as an African-American Christian scholar. Pray for this debate. The implications and outcome of this discussion is profound, to say the least. Special thanks to Chris Broussard for spearheading the initial discussion. Spread the word. Let's go. And I think this is what we've all seen online for the first time, right? And we all went crazy, right? Like, because, one of our own is going to able to have a discussion with somebody who has a very high profile in the conscious community. And, this was great. Like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is it. This is Arlene Frazier, right? This is what we wanted. This is the fight we wanted to see, right? Then the next time we see a post, this is on February 21st.
Hey, let me, before you go there, man, I can't tell you how hype I was when I found out about that, Jay. Like real rap, you know what I'm saying? Like my man Damon, man, like I said, the utmost respect for him, and I think that it's a great matchup. You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of knew a few things actually, before it dropped online, but just for it to kind of like be solidified, I'm like, yo, this is about to be crazy. This is about to be real crazy.
No, absolutely. So here we are. Next post, February 21st, Brother POLIGHT versus Damon Richardson debate update. The meeting last night came closer to a final date. At this point, late July is the tentative time frame. Venue location is Brooklyn, New York. Specific location will be finalized shortly. We're in conversation with several churches as possible hosting sites. Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club morning show is a possible tap for a debate moderator. The debate will be focused on the historicity of Jesus and the disputation / defense of the historical impact of Christianity on black people in America. We are looking to name the debate / dub the event for marketing purposes. Drop ideas in the comment section, right? So we have an update, right? So so far it's progressing, right? There's now we're kind of zeroing in on location. We're zeroing in on who might be a possible moderator. We're zeroing in on the subject matter and the subtopics, right? So it's happening, right? It's happening. So, right. But then we hear of this conversation on Saturday, and about how they haven't really, well, POLIGHT saying that they haven't really discussed marketing, right? And Damon will tell you exactly what that conversation really was about. Mm-hmm. But if we just go by what POLIGHT says, right? He says that they didn't talk about marketing. Well, according to him, he's right, because he started marketing. This is his Instagram post about the debate. So this idea of whether or not he was all in, that's a lie, right? In fact, he made his flyer himself, right? You see it, Christian apologist Damon Richardson versus melanin conscious brother POLIGHT, which I never ever heard him call himself that, but hey, feel free, right?
Hey man, look, if you create a flyer, if you give yourself a black eye and create a flyer, then you're all in. You gotta
all in. Man, you wildin'. What was that about? You wildin' already. So, and then we see, right?
The spirit of MJ Jackson came hit me up that time. That's what that was.
I see that. I see that. We have to have the exorcism to get that spirit out of you. That messy spirit is right. Is Jesus a copy of previous mythological traditions? Is there proof of Jesus' existence outside the Bible? Is Christianity good for our people? These are the subject matters that's on the flyer. Then here's his text, quote, "The black church is mad at my body count and they want smoke. It's official, family. I am definitely coming out of retirement for the great debate, the day of judgment, the historicity of Jesus. The great debate will take place in the black church on their home court in Brooklyn, New York in July 2020. I commend the black church for having the heart to finally discuss these issues about Christianity and Jesus in retrospect to the salvation of our people. The best scholars will be out. I will not disappoint. It's going to be a movie. Tickets and locations will be available."
Sounds like somebody who's committed to me. You know what I'm saying? That's what it sounds
like. It gets, because listen, no one told him to make the flyer, bro.
Right.
They didn't say, "Yo, make a flyer." He did it on his own.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Coming out of retirement. This is what he wanted to do, show and prove, right?
It was crazy. It's just like, so it's clear he was in.
He's obviously in.
He was obviously in. He made the flyer. He said it's happening. It's official. Right. So actually, you know what? Let me do this now. So we seen the flyer, right? Mm-hmm. So how about we hear it from the man himself, though?
Okay, let's go.
All right. How about we hear it from the man himself?
For anybody who's new to BK Apologetics channel, right? For any given point that he's going to make, trust and believe he's going to give you 85 sources, 5 videos. You know what I'm saying? This man, I guarantee he's got videos of like St. Augustine lingering around to reference, like the actual St. Augustine. Some kind of way he's got a video.
but let's listen to him. Hold on. Let me turn my. All right, you can still hear me, Adam?
Yes, I hear you.
All right, here we go, guys.
Elephants. You don't see it, let alone for them to.
Wait, hold on. Let me.
So I want to make it clear.
You hear that?
I'm coming out of retirement. I know many of you have seen the flyer. I'm very excited about the situation. I'm super excited. We're going to do it in July. It's going to be amazing. We're going to do this in July. And the reason why it's a great opportunity spiritually is because we're going to do this in the church. We're going to do this event in the black church. we never see the black church really stand up and say, I'm going to debate you on the issues. The elephants in the room, elephants. We don't see it, let alone for them to have the heart, for them to have the courage to say, and we're going to do it in our forum. When given the opportunity to do this debate at a mega church in Brooklyn that hosts thousands of people, I had to say yes. Because if I can get the opportunity to have my Christian brethren, my Christian brothers and sisters, sit down and watch a presentation, sit down and listen to a diatribe, I know that not only within the confines of those walls inside that church, I also know outside that church, members of the church is going to watch that. They're going to say, this high school dropout is debating one of our top clergy. Because Pastor Damon Richardson, Christian apologist, he's considered to be one of their greatest minds. And I'm not going to lie to you. The man is exceptionally learned. He's very brilliant, very articulate, very calculative in his Christian deliberations, very calculative in his arguments. They're well put together. He's highly educated. And as an apologist, he's designed to take the most common arguments that Christians are confronted with and to give answers, to diffuse the potentiality of people finding Christians in error. So I think it's exciting. I think it's very exciting that this opportunity would present itself and that I would be able to do it in Brooklyn. So it's kind of like the Lakers versus the Clippers, where they occupy the same stadium, but they have home and away games, even though they're both from the same city. They represent the same city. So in the same manner, I'm from Brooklyn, but it's going to be an away game because I'm going to be at the church. I'm going to be on their home court. I think this is I know this to be a great opportunity for us to reach the Christian church. I want y'all to be there in representation of our community. And I also want to tell you guys, if I don't show you a black woman on a cross, on an ark, if I don't show you Christians, early Christians, who had the black woman on the ark, if I don't factually prove this, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I'll mess around and I won't even teach again if I don't show you this. Because I went to the other side of the world.
Okay. 1 2 1 2. Can you guys hear me? Can I be heard?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
The man himself in the building.
All right.
Killmonger has entered the building.
Is this your king? I started to do Achilles. Is there no one else?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have Damon Richardson in the building. What's going on, sir?
All right, doing good, man. Doing good. I don't know if this is too much light on my face, but we'll work with it.
Oh, you good,
Yes,
man.
sir.
You good.
All right.
Sir. So, we was kind of clearing the path for you a little bit, before you ignite the flamethrower. You know what I mean? So we talked a little bit about the backstory, right? Because it's really important for people to have the context of what happened on Saturday. So who better than a primary source, which is yourself, if you could give us more background and how this came to be?
Good. So POLIGHT and I started talking back in, I believe it was January. And so Chris Broussard actually set it up. And so if everybody remembers, I shared a post on my page essentially calling POLIGHT out. I said, I'd love to debate POLIGHT. If anybody knows how to get in contact with him, tell him I want to debate him. Right. And it was really almost jokey, even though I was serious. I honestly didn't think that it would happen. And so Chris Broussard hit me up and said, hey, man, I've got POLIGHT's number. I actually already spoke to him, and POLIGHT is very interested in the debate. And if it's okay with you, I'll share your number with him, get you guys talking. So he did a text group at first, and we did all of the little pleasantries, and we took off. Our first conversation, we probably talked on the phone I'd say probably about 2.5 hours. And so in that conversation, we worked out preliminary information. That was, we agreed on what type of venue, right? And so we worked through, okay, it's not going to be, at first he said Alhambra Ballroom in Harlem. And I said, well, Harlem, from a logistics standpoint, a transportation logistics standpoint, is not as accessible as Brooklyn and Queens, since it's out on the island. You can come from the north, south, east, or west, and it's just a better situation. And he said, you know what, I agree with that. I was like, good. I said, in fact, let's just go Brooklyn. He was like, oh man, that's great. That's my hometown. I'm like, cool. And I said, now how about we possibly look at a church as opposed to something like a ballroom? And then I said, and you keep in mind now, I said, you know how Negroes, they start wilding out. I said, like Malcolm got killed in the Audubon Ballroom. I said, we don't need any unnecessary violence. And I said, one thing that I do know about Black people is that we are generally religious, and we generally subscribe to Christianity, even if it's by name. And so even the people in the woke community, they still have aunties, grandmas, uncles and whatnot, that are deacons in churches and mothers in churches. So they're not going to bring their antics to the church. I said, do you agree with that? He was like, sure. And he even mentioned that in his own community, he had received a number of threats and himself would feel safer in a church. And so at that point, I said, what I'll do is, my part of the bargain would be to get a venue. And so we talked about that. And I said, now we'll work on moderator. I said, who do you think would be a good moderator? And he felt like, let's get Charlemagne the God. I was like, oh man, that'll be dope. That brings in a lot of exposure, especially from outside of the Christian community, which I definitely wanted that. He talked a lot about celebrities that follow him. And I was like, good. Okay, you work on that. I'll work on that. Let's talk money now. So all this was the first meeting. I said, let's talk money now. And so we generally agreed. And there's no secret in this. There is money to be made. And the money to be made primarily is for the time invested in the debate itself. And so we talked about it. We said, what do you think is reasonable? So for instance, here's what that would have looked like. For streaming online, he would have had a gateway that he would share with his audience. I would have had a gateway that I share with mine, and whatever my gateway cost would be, 100% of that would go to me. And I told him that I have a team, and I would take some of that, some of that expense, or not expense rather, but some of what is made, and then pay people who are helping me. So I've got a research team. I've got some people who would be working some admin. And I said, but I would obviously take a larger cut out of that, but I would utilize that in order to be able to pay people who are on my team. I said, the other thing is that we've got to look at what's tickets at the door. So he wanted to go, we got the corner store, we got the bodega, we got all these different places that can be ticket outlets. I was like, no, brother. I said, that's too messy. I said, how about we just use Eventbrite, and then we keep the books clean. And so my people looking at it, your people looking at it, they're looking at the same thing. None of that side hustle and stuff. We can all be looking at the same balance sheet. You know how you got to do.
Facts.
And I said, we'll all be looking at the same balance sheet, and then we'll know how to split that 50-50. I said, but if you got multiple places that tickets are being sold, I said, that's not going to be clean. And so I said, do you agree with that? He said, yeah, definitely agree with that. I said, cool. So we'll work on that. I said, we'll set something up like an Eventbrite, and then that way we know what 50-50 looks like. We know what that looks like by the end of the event, and I said, people will show up with their ticket on their phone as opposed to trying to buy the ticket at the door, right. Whatever. So I said, we're all good. So we talked that, and he was very pleased that I was talking business. He was like, oh man, so many other guys, man, they're not about their business. so forth and so on. And so the third piece of the discussion was, what are we actually going to debate on? So that had not been decided up to that point. It was just, I want to debate you. You want to debate me. Let's debate. And so he said, well, what do you think? I said, well, given that I've heard you make claims that Jesus didn't exist, I'd love to challenge you on that. I said, but before I do, let me just ask you, I mean, were you being metaphorical, or do you really believe that? And so he said he really believes that. He told me personally that he believed that Jesus was a mythological figure. And so it's easy for him to argue then that Jesus is a borrow of mythological figures, because he believes that Jesus properly belongs to that category. And so I said, are you sure?
Bro, I didn't believe you when you told me, bro.
I didn't believe it either, bro.
Yo, when Damon told me, I'm like, nah, no. That's too easy. Really?
Yeah.
Easy,
we got a victim.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly right.
It was not going to work well.
Oh,
it wasn't
man.
going to work
well for him at all. Yeah.
I don't know anybody that he could beat. You know, I don't know anybody that it's just that's an indefensible position to take. But he said he was going to take that position. He felt very confident that he could argue it well. And he expressed to me on multiple occasions during our conversation, he said, bro, he said, man, just listening to you, he said, man, you're very articulate. He said, I can tell that you're intelligent. He said, I already know going in, this is just going to be my hardest debate ever. He expressed that on a platform with Sonetta. He expressed the same thing in his own Facebook Live. And so, he has clearly expressed, even though he threw out his, but I'm going to bring it, this, that, or the other, whatever, what you would expect him to say.
Right.
But he expressed that he has incredible amount of respect for me, and so forth and so on, and that this was going to be his hardest debate. Now, this would not be anywhere near the most difficult debate for me, but for him, it was going to be the most. And so that's telling right there. And so I didn't give up any, he went on, he started talking about his background. I learned a lot of things about POLIGHT that I didn't know. He seemed to be really respectful in the conversation that he and I had. I even heard him say some very kind things about Christianity that I never heard come out of his mouth. And, he said some really kind things. And he said some things that suggested to me that he had a sense of admiration for Christians, and especially Black Christians. He talked about our faith, and he even contrasted it with the he said, well, one thing about you guys, he said, man, you guys have faith and you put your faith to work. He said, you guys have institutions that demonstrate that you guys have faith. So you guys have schools, you've got, build institutions that confirm that you put your money where your mouth is and you actually believe what you're saying. He says, at least that much can be said about you guys. Our community, not so much. And so, he did that comparing and contrasting. And he talked about how he had distanced himself at one point from his own community. It's time to come out of retirement, yada, yada.
Hey, Damon, you mind if I butt in right there right quick?
Say it again.
You mind if I butt in right quick on that last point about just kind of talking about the institutions and whatnot? It was very interesting. I just happened to see somebody said that you wouldn't hear that on Sonetta, which is true. I think that you probably wouldn't hear him, speak like that on Sonetta. But interestingly enough, I want to say like 2.5, 3 years ago, I actually interviewed Sonetta when I was the host of the King Talks podcast. And Sonetta was really along the same lines. He was very, blunt about the fact that Christians, the church has shown improved, what I'm saying, when it comes to doing good works in the community, having these institutions, so on and so forth. And he too made the same criticism with respect to just basically the concert community not really having anything to show for all the talk other than like maybe YouTube videos and that kind of thing. So, I mean, he said that straight up. People can go check that out. But I just find that very interesting that you have two people, Brother POLIGHT and Sonetta, who, I mean, nobody is, more prominent in the concert community than those two. And both of them are in agreement, with respect to what the church has done, is doing, and also, just kind of that being lacking in the conscious community. I think that's fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good to point out, that they are aware of where their gaps are, where their deficiencies are, where some of their weaknesses. It's like when you do that SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses,
Yeah,
opportunities,
yeah, yeah.
and so forth and so on. They seem to be very cognizant of where their weaknesses and their opportunities, areas of opportunities are. And when they're in private conversations, they speak differently. But when they're in front of their audience, it comes across to me like the kid that does all the trash talking in school about, meet me, after school at 3, and it's got the whole school, gassed up about, knocking your head off.
Yep.
And then, if you were to say to that same person, don't worry about meeting me after school, how about you just meet me behind the building? They don't talk the same when you meet them behind the building.
They never do. They never do, bro.
Yeah.
But I think just in general, like I feel like what you're doing right now kind of represents that. I mean, just for not just the urban apologetics community, but really the church, particularly the Black church. You know what I'm saying? So like real quick, like another thing Sonetta said in that interview was that they used to, beat up on the Moors back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But then the Moors started, bucking back. You and I, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening now is that like we're not the same breed of Christian that they're accustomed to. You know what I'm saying? We're not the random person walking down 125th who doesn't really know, the ins and outs of Christianity, and so you can just kind of pull the wool over their eyes. And I think that's very different for these youth. I honestly don't think they understand what they're dealing with right now.
They absolutely don't. They're not used to, and you can tell by the kinds of Christians that they engage. They're used to engaging Christians that are uninformed, and I think we all can admit that there are different levels of discipleship among Christians, and there are some Christians that are not as informed as others. But more and more, we're finding Christians that have a more advanced level of discipleship, knowledge of the Bible, knowledge of history, particularly church history, various Old Testament periods. And so you're right. The average Christian is, it's not what you're used to running into. And I think one of the reasons for that is that newer generations of Christians believe in apologetics, even if they don't know about apologetics. So for instance, our mother's generation and our grandmother's generation, they would often say, you don't go arguing no Bible. So they were really anti-apologetic. And for no good reason, because the Bible doesn't say not to argue the Bible. In fact, if they had been reading the Bible, they would find verses like, and Paul reasoned with the Jews in the synagogue on every Sabbath. That's arguing the Bible. And so they had this sense of value that, this unwritten, not even an unspoken rule, because they would say it. Now, we don't argue the Bible. And so this generation believes that, well, yeah, you absolutely do argue the Bible.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they're running into Christians who are willing to engage them on claims and contentions that are made against Christianity, whereas in the civil rights era and even moving somewhat forward, Christians weren't in that public square like that. They were very non-engaged, and I'm not saying that they were on the sidelines altogether, but from an apologetic standpoint, I mean, let's just be honest. 100 years of being on the sidelines as it relates to apologetics is part of what's gotten us where we are now.
Very true.
We have not really had an answer to the Hebrew Israelites who have been functioning in Black communities longer than the Nation of Islam. They're not an upstart.
That's a good point.
Abba Bivens and these guys have been around since the late 19th century and the earlier part of the 20th century. The Nation of Islam didn't jump off until about 31, 32 after the Moorish Science Temple, which officially started in 30. It had a good 2 to 3 year run, and it kind of started fizzling out, and then it had its little revival. Right. Started spinning off multiple groups, but that's 30, 40 years after the Hebrew Israelites had already been functioning in urban communities. And so then you get your 5%ers in the 60s, and of course some of your other groups like what
the Nuwapians and all that, and
Bombada's group, Zulu
Zulu
Nation,
Nation,
Zulu
right.
Nation, yeah.
Zulu Nation. You start getting all these different types of groups or whatever, and so we have not really had a solid apologetic for these groups, and so it's really created a vacuum, allowing them to really get where they are now. So
and you made a great point the other day too. Like I hadn't even thought about it, but like in that live you did the other day, you said something about how just a couple of years ago it wasn't nothing to be scrolling through your timeline or whatever and see a bunch of anti-Christian memes like white man's religion, this and that, just all these memes. Jesus came from horrors, blah blah blah. But you don't really see people popping off like that no more. Like maybe in like subgroups and stuff like that.
Right.
But you don't really see like these drive-by memings anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where they just dropping some ludicrous meme.
And I didn't realize that when you said that, I'm like, yo, he's right.
He's right. And I think you're right because I used when I first started, man, before I had a podcast or anything like that, I was just jumping in chat rooms, and if I saw somebody popping off, I was just battling. That's just how it was. It's kind of like Meek Mill in his early days with the braids. That's how I was getting in. But like now, when I hop in joints, like there's like 4 or 5 other people already. Engaging these dudes. So like people and names I don't recognize.
That's
so
right.
Like this urban apologetics thing is like really catching on, and I think people don't realize like how this is growing right now.
What I find interesting too is the conscious community. They created a cottage industry over the banging and discrediting of the Bible. This is how they've developed. Most of these guys have become famous critiquing the Bible.
That's right.
And taking low-hanging fruit, well-meaning believers, but yet ill-equipped, and making examples of them, right? And that was the case until they dealt with Bantu.
Yeah.
And this is where they made their first fatal flaw, because they thought it was going to be another Pastor Porkchop moments. And it didn't work out the way they thought. And now we're in, right? It's like the old vampire movies. It's like the vampire can't get in the house unless you invite him in. You invite us in now. So we're here. And it's problematic for their industry.
Right. And I don't think that, I'm not trying to spill the beans a whole lot, but I was responding to somebody earlier today. I don't think people realize like the way that the urban apologetics community is growing, we don't necessarily have to like be kind of within the conscious community to kind of gain like some sort of platform. Like we don't need their platform in order for us to have a platform. We can really talk past them in a sense, in that we deal with the content, and then prayerfully some of them will catch on. But we don't have to be like a parasite. Basically, we don't have to do to them what they've done to the church. They relied upon the church, as you described, to really grow. Whatever way that they have, we don't have to do that to them in order for us to grow. Like we're growing already. Exactly. But we choose to engage them because I think that's Christian duty, as Damon described.
Yeah. They operate by essentially what is a type of rediscipling, re-evangelizing kind of what would you call that? Basically, I'm trying to think of the terminology when you go proselytizing. That's the term, proselytizing. So their main goal in proselytizing is always going after Christians. So you can even remember, of course, in the Malcolm X movie, the way that Malcolm's young, he's an upstart. They get him out on the corner, and you see him right in front of a church. They're waiting on the churchgoers to come out. And so, oh, I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised. You've been in there for 2 hours praying to this white Jesus about this hereafter, and he hasn't come yet. Why don't you come on over to the temple and hear the black man's truth? And ironically, the temple service is at 2:00. So that's strategic, you see? And so all of them have essentially functioned, a lot of these bricks, Black religious identity cults have essentially functioned in that same way. Let's proselytize Christians. Let's use this angle that the black preacher is withholding the truth from you. The black preacher is a deceiver. The black preacher is your problem because he's keeping you in darkness. Come over here where the truth is. And so they're constantly using that narrative and that angle in order to create this notion that Christianity is of course the white man's religion, and Christianity is you know, sitting on the truth and trying to keep people in some sort of mental colonialism and enslaved in their mind and all this other stuff. And so that's a really, really popular narrative that they use, but you hardly ever see them really going out into the marketplace and essentially at random, you know, doing their proselytizing. It's their aim and goal is always, how do we take people who subscribe to Christianity and then retrain their thinking, or essentially indoctrinate them with our ideas. Yeah. So,
and you know what, too? Actually, you said something that made me think about something too. Like in terms of like how we're engaging now, they're not dealing with like some starchy Christians either. You know what I'm saying? Let me be more specific. They're not dealing with Christians who are out of touch with their ethnic, you know, blackness or whatever.
That's right.
And you're dealing with Eric Mason.
Right.
Like, nobody's blacker than Eric Mason. Right. Culturally speaking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like he wrote a book, his whole book, Woke Church.
Woke Church, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wrote a whole book defending, you know, black identity from a biblical perspective, challenging white supremacy in the world and in the church. He wrote a whole book about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You got somebody like yourself who, on the one hand, you're dealing with individuals like Brother Polite, but on the other hand, you're doing a live about the Arbery situation. You know what I'm saying? About Arbery. You know what I'm saying? You know, me and BK Apologists, we did one of Definitely as well. So we're not individuals who are just like, you know, we're just going to defend the white man's religion, just defend the Bible. No, like we're also engaged in the same kinds of things that they claim that they're concerned about.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that kind of throws them out. And again, like with the, you know, with Vince Bantu, you know what I'm saying? I mean, just listen to his name, you know?
Right.
And he's somebody who's very in touch with his African ethnicity. And so I think with that, they don't have any cultural leverage, you know what I mean, in that regard. And I think that that's something that they're just not used to. They're not used to that.
Yeah. And you know something, Adam? I mean, you make a really good point. And one of the things that has come to me, it's occurred to me that we have almost credited their community with a concern for all things African American that I don't think that they've ever really truly earned, right? So, for instance, when you think about the Nation of Islam, what concern, what larger impact has the Nation of Islam made on the Black community? If you're over in Chicago, their mosque is way over on Stony Island. That's way over on the east side. That's nowhere real near where the hood really is on the south side. Now they got, you know, they've got the little bookstore over on 79th or whatever, but you don't really see the immersion and the engagement in those inner city pockets. They don't really, everything that they do is for them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't really see that. You go to New York, you go over on Merrick, you see what Floyd Flake has done over in Jamaica, Queens. That's not all for people in his church. You go over to Harlem and you see what Wyatt T. Walker did. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I can just name after name. Black Christians have done things not only for the church community, that is the inner community, but they've done massive things for the outer community. That's where your HBCUs come from, so forth and so on. And so what really has all of your so-called woke people ever really did for the community at large? And so I think they want to be known as woke and pro-Black, but the blackest institution in the Black community is the Black church, because we've done the most for the community outside of the four walls. And so I think we've accredited them a reputation that they have not earned. I want to see what they've done. Look at your guy. What's his Dr. Umar Johnson? Look at him. He talks and then they do all of this fundraising, and then they slander the church for pulpit pimps and so forth and so on. Well, you know what? We got a few of them among us, but they're probably less than 1% in comparison to those that are good stewards of money and that actually take that money to build community centers and places that Children in the Black community can be tutored and actually have exposure to a computer with internet. I'm going to say something that blows people away. So this whole COVID-19 deal has exposed that when schools had to go online and that children had to log on in order to be able to be counted that day and to do the work, what we've seen is that there are literally millions of African-American kids that do not have access to steady internet service or an actual computer. They might have a phone, but they don't have an actual desktop computer or internet. So a lot of them during this period have fallen behind. Black churches, however, have always had centers where children can come after school and learn how to read. So where's the woke folks at? Like, what do they have? Like, I don't know. I don't know what they are doing.
Your point too, it's like a lot of times, I think sometimes we do our own self a disservice because we talk about like the civil rights movement and things like that, which are all important. We talk about the past, but I mean, I'm talking about like current stuff. I'm saying like what you're talking about is current, right? I mean, I'm a social worker. Now, you know, sometimes I work with families who are disadvantaged and so forth. Sometimes they're behind on their rent, need food, and so forth. I could throw a rock out my window right now and hit a black church that's going to help one of the families that I deal with. I'm saying like anybody in social services will tell you that one of the first places you're going to go if you have some sort of need is going to be the church. That's any community. Like we already know that. I'm saying when we talk about the black church, we got to deal with reentry programs for like those who have been incarcerated. I'm saying like the black church is known for that. We're talking about child care currently. I'm saying my grandfather, he's like 90. He just turned like 92. You know what I'm saying? He was teaching in a prison up to like his mid 70s, maybe like almost 80. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So like we really sometimes like we really have to, and I'm not saying we have to toot our own horn, but we do have to correct the narrative though. Right. Then we do have to correct the false narrative. And to your point, I mean, who's doing more work?
Yeah.
You know
and think about it. Here's one meme that we hardly ever see now, but we used to see a lot. X amount of billions of dollars are collected annually through tithing in the black church. And here's what you don't see. In other words, the question is we don't see anything that you guys have done. But if you take the money that you've collected through the black, like for instance, one of the reasons why HBCUs exist is because of the black church, and it's been the black church's funding. So for instance, how many of you know churches every single year, they've got a little scholarship. They can send 2 or 3 kids to college every year on the scholarship. Usually it's an HBCU. Well, who are those scholarships coming from? The black church. So I haven't seen what they've done. I just, if there's any contribution, it's so minimal that almost everything from hospitals to clinics, libraries, schools, housing for seniors, low-income housing, all of these different things, the black church continues to lead the way in terms of, I remember a pastor upstate New York, I went to preach some years ago. This was back in the, I think it was the late 90s. I went to preach upstate New York for this church. And I was so impressed because this pastor had encouraged almost everybody in his church to become foster parents. And so not only did their church like quadruple in size by doing that, but some of them had even moved to adoption. And I was thinking, this is wonderful. You got all of these kids that are in the system that need to be in good homes. I mean, what better home to be in than in a Christian home? And this pastor had created a culture in his church whereby parishioners were seeing that example, and then they were encouraged to take on 2 or 3 or even 4 kids in their home and foster them, and in that way be an influence. That's something that Christianity has done. Where's the work? Where the woke organizations doing things like that?
We're the ones that created orphanage to begin with. The church invented the orphanage.
That is exactly right.
Yeah,
Harriet Tubman created one of the first ones upstate New York.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, Harriet Tubman was the one that did. I think it was in Oneida, New York, or Osning, or somewhere upstate New York. She created the first one. Yeah.
Right. Hey, I just want to say, just like total random side note, like I would encourage people to do some research on Harriet Tubman, though. Like he did a lot of stuff that cats really don't know about, including leading a raid during the Civil War, being involved in scouting out and participating in a raid in the Civil War. I mean, she did a lot of stuff, man. And she was a straight up Christian. You can't read her anything about her without seeing her faith shine through.
Oh,
she was a G for real. For real.
Exactly right.
So,
but getting back to the actual conversation, one of the things I found very interesting in the talk he had with Polite is Sarnetta said that nobody heard about the debate between Bantu and Jabari on their side. Right?
Well,
he said that, right?
You even speak to that even better than me, but we know that is an absolute lie.
Flat out lie.
So to show how much of a lie that really is, all right, let me share my screen real quick.
Actually, you know what, Fred, you got to forgive me, man. I got to go downstairs and fix this kitchen sink, man, that busted on me earlier today. So I actually got to dip out. So my apologies to y'all, man.
Nah, no problem, man. Bro.
You're good.
No problem.
Appreciate y'all. And
I'm surprised you hang in there as long as you did.
Yeah. I tried to do a little something, and yeah, I told him before you came, Damon. I'm like, John the Baptist in here, man. I was until you came on the channel. I was trying to pave the way, make the way straight. You know what I mean? Man. So
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man. Well, y'all be blessed, man. Y'all take it easy now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, right. So this is October 11th, 2019. No religion. Jabari, why, bro? This is where he drags Jabari over the debate, right? We see that it's a 3-hour video, 3,100 views, right? Okay. Here we have Black Jesus Radio replaying the video, 3 hours, right? 220 views. Not so many views, right? But still. Again, Ankh talking about the debate, right? October 18th, right? This is a 2-hour video. 1,937 views, right? October 14th, Woke Christianity versus Newfound Consciousness, Jabari versus Dr. Bantu review. This is a 2.5-hour video, 3,885 views, right? October 20th, Jabari versus Dr. Vince Bantu, is Christianity the White Man's Religion, Part 1. This is a 6-hour video, 6,000 views, 6,511 views. Right? October 27th, Jabari versus Dr. Bantu, is Christianity a direct copy of Kemet? This is a almost 6-hour video, 5,892 views. Now, mind you, these are not all the videos that talk about the debate. And this is just the month of October, right? What happened that's the same month of the debate. So just in the month of October, we have 22 hours of video and 244,325 views, right? So now you could say, well, that's not a lot of views. Polite has gotten like 1 million views. That's not the point. The point is 100,000 is more than nothing.
That's right.
So Sarnetta said no one viewed it. Right. This begs to differ. So I just wanted to share that real quick.
Significant point of information there that it had not gotten enough traction on that side. It had not been widely known. The reality is that the evidence points to the fact that the conscious community did know of the debate. They saw it many, many times, and there was a lot of chatter in various forums and private groups on social media, so forth and so on, about it. And who won, who lost, all kinds of things. So it's a complete lie, fabrication, misrepresentation of the facts that it was not well published after, and that's just not true. And there's no reason to believe that the debate between Polite and I would suffer from a lack of marketing simply because they think our side is so small. That it just wouldn't get noticed, that nobody over there would even know that it occurred. That's just not true. And so here's the thing here's one of the things that makes that problematic. Well, if Polite's name carries so much weight in his own community, then he should just be able to say, I'm debating, and people from his community would be interested. And so his whole logic behind why we've got to do all of this type of extra marketing just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, when the reality is that if you're such a drawing card, people are going to want to come and hear you debate. Any additional marketing that you do is just gravy on top of it. But people are already interested just at the mention of the fact that you are going to debate. I know that's how it is. When I announced that people were interested, not just that he was on the ticket, but they were interested because my name was on there. People want to see it. And again, so if his name carries so much weight, he should not be concerned with this whole marketing deal.
I mean, he's almost a mainstream personality, right? We've seen him on the Breakfast Club, right? He hangs out with Money Mayweather, right? He's always courtside with some celebrity. Like, he's lit, right? He's out here. So if he says anything's going down, there's a bunch of people going to automatically sign up for it.
Absolutely.
Regardless if Damon Richardson has a name or not. Right?
That's right.
So,
that's right.
But now I'm going to switch gears with you. I'm going to play devil's advocate. All right? Because there's been, definitely some chatter about your conversation with POLIGHT. And these are some of the things people have said, right? Now, they said that they didn't appreciate your aggression during the phone call, that you was being a bit, of a bully. You was very loud. Why was you so loud during the conversation? Why? That's not very Christ-like of you, Damon, for you being so boisterous. The Mobb Deep reference, right? The Killmonger reference. Why did you have to? Was that necessary, Damon, for you to do that during that conversation? What do you say to that? What do you say to that, sir?
Well, let me start off by saying here's what was not necessary. So it definitely wasn't necessary for me to be that visibly angry. So that's more of a maybe I wouldn't say a character as much as maybe a personality flaw that Damon Richardson has to work on. And I've heard people say, man, you know what you're talking about, man. You got to be a little bit more polished and so forth and so on. And maybe that's true. I don't doubt that at all. I can be very, I can come across as very scholarly and very, just very poised and very professional. And then I can come across as very down home. Your
Queens comes out.
There you go. So, and all of it makes for, so some of it, again, I think that the extra anger stuff is probably, I could have held off on that. I could have just been laughing about it or whatever. Now I still would have thrown in various references like, Bone Crusher and I would have still done it.
Right.
Because that's me. Now, what's interesting is that people that are having this concern had no problem when POLIGHT uses that not only aggressively, but he uses blasphemy even when he is attacking Christianity. F Jesus and all this other stuff, and insulting Black preachers and Black Christians as being ignorant, so forth and so on. And anybody has ever watched a POLIGHT, not only a debate, but these street kind of engagements and interactions. I mean, you see this vein in the middle of his forehead. He always looks like he's about to fight. And so it's almost the nerve and the audacity of them to actually think that because Damon was getting a little aggressive, oh, I just didn't like that. Really? You didn't like that? Or is it that you didn't like it because now this is how it sounds like when your man is on the other side of that same kind of level of aggression. So certain of those pieces. Let me also say this. It's funny how people who despise Christianity, against Christianity, all of a sudden they become experts on how Christians are supposed to behave and what they're supposed to do. Well, evidently they don't know their Bible, because Jesus was more facetious. Jesus was the king of shade. And there I go again, using culture, right? And so what, everybody knows what throwing shade is. And so the Gospels are full of a lot of these shade kind of moments. There's another phrase for it that they call subtle seditions. These are various ways in which the gospel writers were showing sedition or showing their disagreement with the Roman Empire. Imperial Rome was also a religious cult. And so the gospel writers would use Jesus's statements as a polemic against it. And it would be very shaded and veiled and sarcastic, that oftentimes, because it was coded in Hebraic culture, that Roman people reading it wouldn't have picked up on it. Let me give you a couple examples, since they think that I was being super sarcastic and facetious. Let me show you that what I was doing comes from a biblical tradition, a Christian tradition. So for instance, when the gospel writer talks about Jesus walking across the Sea of Galilee, one of the gospel writers doesn't say the Sea of Galilee. He says the Sea of Tiberias, right? He uses the Sea of Tiberias. Tiberius was one of the Caesars. Augustus was his father. This was the same Caesar that they bought the minted coin to. And Jesus said, whose image is on it? What inscription is on it? The inscription said, most worshipful Son of God, Augustus Caesar, right? And so when the gospel writer demonstrates Jesus walking across the water, that is their way of taking shots at Rome. And since Augustus had made claim to divinity, Jesus walking on the Sea of Tiberias demonstrates Jesus's superiority over Tiberius. It's the very same thing in Luke chapter 4 with the command these stones to be turned into bread, and leaping from the pinnacle of the temple, and the angels will catch you lest you dash your foot against the stone. All of that was a pushback, a sarcasm against what was called bread and circuses. Rome, in order to be able to encourage greater loyalty, would give out what appeared to be free bread and free entertainment, and they would essentially sucker their own people into greater loyalty. And so the gospel writer takes that, plays against that, and uses this as a veiled shade. When Jesus says, go to Pilate, about Pilate, go tell that fox, that the idea is not slyness or slickness in the way that we would talk about a fox being clever. In Hebraic culture, a fox was a person who saw himself or herself as either being larger, more important, and more significant than what they were, but in fact, they were really a small animal, right? And so Jesus says, go tell that fox. Right. And when you understand the context, this is Jesus essentially saying, go tell Pilate that he essentially has no power over me. He's not as big as what he thinks he is. He can't touch me if I don't want to be touched. Right. And so this is Jesus again using sarcasm and even using shade. We find that even with the showdown of Elijah on Mount Carmel, where he tells I think it was 400
prophets of Baal.
Of Baal. He tells them, hey, in fact, he allows them to throw their animals on the altar, and he said, I'm gonna even spot you a few points. You guys can actually douse my altar with as much water as you can, and if the God who answers by fire, that is the true God. Right. And so he doesn't even do that to them. He has them do that to him. And then when it was their turn, he says for hours in the day, oh Baal, hear us. Oh Baal, hear us. And he said, call a little louder. Maybe he's gone on a long journey, a long walk.
Maybe he's asleep. Right.
Maybe he's asleep. And then he even says, maybe he's idle. That translates to maybe he's essentially doing number two. He's relieving himself, sitting on the toilet. And so Elijah is mocking them. There's some people say, oh, we don't have to mock unbelievers in order to get our point across. But there's a whole biblical culture of mockery and sarcasm associated with the presentation of whatever God's message is. And so don't come telling us how to be good Christians when you don't even believe in Christianity. We're being good Christians. In fact, we're following the example of Jesus himself, who often utilized sharp statements
Right.
In order to be. When he told the Syrophoenician woman that it's not right to give the children's bread to dogs, if Jesus were to make that kind of statement today, there would be all kinds of lawsuits against him and all kinds of things that, you know, sexual harassment and all kinds of things.
Right.
That, you know, we just live in a very tree hugging kind of society with a bunch of people with thin skin. And so now you see Christianity. See, don't go talking about sweet Lamb of God, Mary's baby. Let's talk about the Jesus that ran up in the temple, ran up in the spot,
threw people and whipped them,
and threw tables over and literally whipped the men across their backs, running them out. So our Jesus is no buttermilk, butter toast, skinny, frail on the cross, emaciated. That's not our Jesus. In fact, Josephus, describing the process of crucifixion, said that most men who were, when we talk about crucifixion, there is a beating aspect of it before you even get to the cross.
The flogging.
Josephus said that most men died during that part. Jesus did not. He not only survived that part, but he had to carry a cross that weighed over 200 pounds uphill for at least a quarter of a mile.
And even before that, the company of soldiers in the praetorium of the governor's place, and how they put the crown of thorns, and they beat him with the crown of thorns in his head prior to giving him the cross.
That's right. So Jesus was physically tough, and so there's nothing weak about biblical Christianity. And so what people saw, minus the anger, minus all that, what they actually saw was strength. That's what they saw. And in fact, POLIGHT obviously recognized that, because you didn't hear him. You heard some over talking, this, that, or the other, but you didn't hear him in his usual demeanor, because what he recognized is that I'm not talking to somebody that's weak. I'm talking to somebody that is as strong, if not stronger in personality than me. And so I said a lot of things. I said, like, hey, listen, we're not the same age. You're not my peer. That's true. POLIGHT can be my son. And so essentially taking it to the culture, what you saw and what you heard was me sunning him. See, you see what I mean? So listen, I've been in ministry when POLIGHT was still in elementary school. So he doesn't have enough skin in the game to be able to deal with me on an intellectual level. And I'm not saying that intellect is all about age either, but what I'm saying is that POLIGHT is an upstart. Malachi York is his teacher, and Malachi York is a loony. And so if that's your teacher, if that's the best that you can come up with, that's the guy that mentored you, that's the guy that discipled you, and you start reading all this other stuff, this, that, or the other, then, that's not impressive at all. And that's not saying a whole lot.
Right. What was your take? What was your take when he said that the conscious community is incompetent?
And so that's interesting, because when I said, the problem with your culture is anti-intellectual and pseudo-intellectual, he got offended and wanted to, said, oh man, now, Saad, did we say anything against his? Now, earlier in the conversation, he actually did. But here's what I want all the conscious folks that'll be watching this video. Don't worry about what Damon Richardson said. That's your man's. That's what he said about y'all. He said, you guys are incompetent, right? And so what you guys don't realize is that you are being hoodwinked and bamboozled, led astray and run amok. This man has got you convinced that he created his own language, and you believe it. Well, sounds like to me he knows what he's talking about, because he's the one selling you the bridge to nowhere. This is the man that says he knows 7 languages fluently. You only heard him cuss proficiently. Where's those other 6 languages that he's supposed to know and speak proficiently? And I'm not talking about dropping a word or two or a phrase here or there in some other language. I'm talking about, where is this language proficiency? Yeah, you guys go about regurgitating and repeating how how otherworldly his knowledge is and how smart he's supposed to be and how dangerous and all this other stuff. Sounds like Polite got all y'all hoodwinked. And so when he says that you guys are incompetent, that came from the top of the food chain right there. Right. That's what he thinks about his own community. You guys are the ones buying books that he hadn't shipped off yet because he sold you on a book cover that wasn't really a book. You're the ones that's buying that stuff. So I mean, if we're going to talk, don't look at my approach. Look at my content.
Right.
Try me on the facts of what I said, not on the way that I went about saying it. Because that's a double standard, especially if you're not holding your guy to that same standard.
Now, there's another question that people have been bringing up, so I'm going to bring it to you, right? Because we keep it at 100 around here, right? Oh, yeah. So people feel like you was being sneaky and deceptive by going live on Facebook while you was having this conversation with Polite, unbeknownst to him. This is what people are saying. That how can a Christian man like Damon Richardson be a snake and be sneaky and don't tell Polite that he's being recorded on Facebook Live?
Gotcha. So here's the thing: is that let's examine the idea of sneakiness, right? So sneakiness and deception is usually connected with actual deception. Right. And so what I challenge people to do is point out what was deceptive. Now, I didn't tell him he was being recorded. That's true. But what was the deception when I was only really allowing people to actually hear what he was saying? If I was being deceptive, then I would have been doing something that was deceiving or misleading people from an informational standpoint. But that's not what I was doing. What I was allowing people to do is what I knew they would not believe if I actually said it. If I had gotten up and said, Polite punked out on this debate, he backed out of it because he was afraid, people would be like, no, that's not true. So I wanted people to actually hear him saying it, not me saying it, but hear him saying it. Now, so if somebody is going to accuse me of being deceptive, find the deception in my words. Find a deception in anything that I actually said. But the reality is what I gave you an opportunity to hear is what he was saying. So in reality, you ought to be thanking me because now you got to hear the other side of the phone conversation and you didn't get to be left with Damon Richardson narrating a conversation for you. You got to hear Polite's own words. And so watch this now. Polite now has to speak to what he actually said. Thanks to who? Thanks to the guy that you think was being deceptive and sneaky. But so that's not what I was doing. I didn't actually owe him any knowledge of the fact that I was recording him. In fact, if you were listening, if you had your listening ears on, you would have heard him say, I wish this was being recorded on Sinetter's channel. So he wouldn't have really had any problem per his own admission. He didn't really have a problem with the conversation being recorded. He only would have wanted it to be recorded on Sinetter's channel, whereas I already bested him, beat him to the punch, and had it literally being live streamed on my channel. And so if we're really looking at it and getting down to what's real and what's not, then Polite himself didn't have a problem with the conversation being recorded by his own admission. And so whether he knew about it or not is irrelevant. Here's what you need to be looking at. But what was said in the conversation? Right. That's where you need to be looking at. Everything else is just a deflection and a red herring. A red herring is a distraction in the argument to keep people's focus away from what they need to be paying attention to. So guess what? Red herrings and deflections don't work with us folk over here. Let's keep the main thing, and let's keep the focus on what was actually said. Don't worry about Damon Richardson's tactics, because at the end of the day, that's really irrelevant. And if you want to stick to that talking point, I'll take one on the chest. I'll take it. Okay, That's something that you fought me with. You said that I was being bullyish. You said that I was being a little angry. And you said that I was being a little deceptive. I'll take that. But what are you going to do with the content still of what you heard? You still have to deal with that.
Absolutely. So now, after the aftermath and fallout, what would it take now for the debate to come back on? Because we all want this, bro.
Absolutely.
And I think both sides want this to happen. So what do you feel like, what would it take for this to actually come back on track and moving forward to an actual debate between you and Brother Polite? What would it take?
Yeah, so Polite would have to actually be reasonable. So Polite agreed to do this debate, and he agreed to essentially everything that we came up with, right? So he already agreed with it. So what people have to understand is once you come to an agreement and you're getting late in the game, you can't come with some concession. I mean, some contingency. And when we say contingency, a contingency is to throw a clause out that if it's not met, then it's off. Well, you got to throw those clauses out earlier on, right? When you're having the initial conversations, put all your clauses on the table. This must be met. This must be met. This must be met before we agree to do this thing. So I thought that that's what we had done. And so if this is going to happen, it's got to be reasonable. What Polite did is completely unreasonable, which is exactly why I'm saying he tried to find a way out of this debate. And so let me repeat myself so that you can understand why he's actually running. What Polite suggested is that we do a weigh-in. I asked Polite, what is a weigh-in in your definition? He said, so he went on to describe that we're essentially going to go back and forth a little bit in terms of some questions that a moderator throws at us. I said, well, that sounds like a debate. He says, well, you can call it that. I said, well, that's just semantics. Your weigh-in is really a debate. I said, but if we're being true to the metaphor of a weigh-in is a pre-fight kind of exhibition there where they not only get weighed in, hence weigh-in, but they also size each other up. And there's a lot of trash talking. What you don't have in the weigh-in is fighting. You don't have a sparring match. So a weigh-in is a weigh-in. I said, so if we're being true to that, then let's make it a weigh-in. I said, I didn't sign up for 2 debates, right? If you want to do a second debate that follows up, well, then let's talk about that. But don't try and do some pre-debate. Don't try and sneak that in on me, right? Because I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for 1 debate, right? And so what I told him is that, yeah, I believe he was fishing for my talking points. But what I told him is, okay, I'll meet you halfway. I am willing to do a weigh-in.
Right.
Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to allow a moderator to ask us 3 questions, and we each get a chance to answer those 3 questions. And we're obviously going to be answering on opposing with opposing views. That will give the audience the opportunity to size us up and see how we, intellectually articulate and think through whatever the question is. They can see how we're processing information, and they can hear all of that. I said, so I'm willing to do that, right? So let it be known that Damon Richardson was willing to meet Polite's late game contingency all the way in the middle and say, well, if we do it like that, I think that suffices your whole marketing goal. But to show you that it never was really about marketing, Polite came up with some fake analytics saying, well, unless it's done exactly the way we want it done, then we won't get the big numbers, right? And then he went on this whole spiel about how his time is valuable and all this other stuff. But wait 1 minute, right? I got my thinking cap on. That's what my first grade teacher told me to put on when I entered into the classroom. So I'm thinking, if this is all about marketing and your time and being compensated, so what happens when I spend 2 hours doing this weigh-in debate? What happens to Damon's money? Well, that's where Sonetta comes in, because let it be known, in all of the original conversations with Polite, he was very, very emphatic about not having Sonetta not allowing Sonetta to have anything to do with it at all. So as soon as he called me and Sonetta was on the other line, I already knew here comes the hustle. So what is Sonetta's real interest in it? Obviously, they want to utilize that weigh-in to be able to make some money off of it, off of me agreeing to do something essentially that's free. So what happens to Damon's time? What happened to the value of my time? Like he argued about his time. So it doesn't follow logically that in order to get your crowd interested, you need a debate before debate in order to get them interested in that debate. Well, what's going to make them interested in the pre-debate? Again, it's all the same dynamics. Either they're coming or they're not, right? If they're not interested in the topic or the people debating, they're not coming. But I already know on our side of things, it was going to be thick, as we say. It was going to be thick. It was going to be packed out. So I don't know about woke folks, but I know about Christian woke folks. We were going to pack it out because people over here want to hear that debate. And so the only other things that I can think of is not only was it an easy out for Polite because he came up with unreasonable contingencies that he knew I wouldn't agree with, but I also believe it was a way to fish for my talking points because him and Sonetta kept talking about, well, you're not really well known and what debates have you done? I was like, bro, just check Urban Logia and there's hundreds of hours worth of video of me talking. Pick any one of them and you'll know who you're dealing with. I said, so I'm already out there. I said, but I'm sure you already know about that. Don't act like you don't know anything about me. You haven't done any intel that you don't know who you're talking to.
Right.
If that's true, then why are you running around social media talking about Damon Richardson is going to be my hardest debate ever? Well, you came up with that from a phone combo? Or did you come up with that because you've already been checking me out? So I'm pretty sure they saw the discussion between Pastor Jerome Gay and I when we were addressing T.I. and Charlemagne the God's conversation about the Bible. I'm sure they've been listening to all of that. What this guy knows is that I'm not a pushover. And clearly, he's obviously afraid because I'm dragging him in. That was another thing he said. I didn't agree to any of the rules. We came up with Lincoln Douglas rules. What Polite wants to have is a screaming match so that he can use his personality to overtalk me as he thinks and win. But when you drag a person into something like Lincoln Douglas or Oxford debate rules, where there's structure to it, then they can't use all of that shimmy shammy kind of stuff that they do on the streets in order to convince people that they know what they're talking about. And that's why I told him. Now, I know that may have come across very arrogant and all kinds of other stuff. I'll take that on the shoulder. I'll take it in the chest. But the reality is that Brother Polite is not in my class. He's outclassed. He's not in the same league. The only people who think he is are people who just don't know what they're even talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. That's like looking at, again, Kimbo Slice videos and thinking he's the best fighter in the world. Well, if you put him in the octagon, you can put him in the cage with a dude that weighs $145. But if this guy is a trained professional mixed martial artist, he's going to knock Kimbo Slice out in under a minute. It doesn't matter how good he can brawl in the backyard. And what you're used to seeing is a backyard brawler. But you've never seen a backyard brawler fight in the octagon. And the moment Kimbo Slice got in the octagon, his career was short because he realized that this is not where I'm really good at. I can't fight in here. I better take it back to the backyard in the YouTube videos and World Star. That's my arena, but not the octagon. And so if Brother Polite wants to debate me, that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be the difference between a backyard brawler debating a person that is professional, skilled, trained, and educated. And if you've never seen that, it's going to be a first round loss, right? He's going to lose in the first round because Polite, his intellectual jugular, is the fact that he never really holds a defensive stance. He never has to ever argue for anything. The onus is never on his shoulders to argue in defense of something. He's always attacking. And so you guys might be chattering out there and hoorah for your man, and that's all good. But tell your man to show up on September 26th so that you can see how badly he performed against somebody that knows what he's talking about.
So to be super clear, in order for this to actually happen, it would have to be Lincoln Douglas style debates,
which we already agreed on.
You agreed. Well, you would do the weigh-in, but not the pre-debate. You would actually have a conversation, 3 questions each, with opposing views to show.
I agree to that. So then
you're good with that.
The same 3 questions.
Right.
It's the same 3 questions. It just doesn't need to be a rebuttal. Once you start rebuttaling, that's a whole debate. Whereas if you are fielded questions, that is more like a forensic debate, kind of like the presidential. They call it public policy. Whereas they're not really rebutting each other so much. They're all being asked the same question and given an opportunity to demonstrate for the listening audience
their prowess.
Answer. Every now and again, they let them loose to go after one or the other. But the main thing is that it's really an opportunity for us to hear their thinking as it relates to that question. So I agree that I'm willing to do that, to throw a little bloody meat at his audience that needs carnage before according to him. I was like, well, I'm willing to show them that, but I'm not willing to do a whole debate. And if he wants to try and say, well, that makes it sound like you're scared. Well, if I'm so scared, then why don't you just show up September 26th to the real debate? You know, and another thing, people are like, well, you need to debate him. He doesn't need to debate you. Well, that's not true either. We don't need to do this debate at all. I don't need to debate him in order to be somebody where it really counts. He doesn't need to debate me in order to be somebody where it counts for him. I think this debate is good for the culture. Right. And so if you're really all about that, so I think it's good, number one, for the gospel, right? The gospel witness. But I also think it's good for the culture. I think Black people in general need to see an intelligent clashing of the minds of ideologies, and to see 2 people who can carry those ideologies with such strong personality and fervor that it becomes attractive it almost becomes like a main event. And so that's what you do have with Polite and I. You got 2 people who are very charismatic personality, you know, very loud personality, very loud mouth type personalities. That's all good. So we evenly match there. But that's the only place that we evenly match. Because once he actually starts out in his opening point and my opening point, you're going to see just how bad it's going to be of a day for him, because it's like, you know, okay, you got water around your toes, but as soon as those waters get around your ankles and around your knees and you start getting dragged out in the deep water, we're going to see that Polite can't swim in deeper water, because he's never really been out there. He's always been debating guys in the shallow. And you guys think, by the way, ironically, that he's deep. Your man ain't never been past the sand. He's never been out there in the water in reality. Damon Richardson is going to drag Brother Polite out in the deep. As the contemporary Christian song says, you lead me out on the waters in the great unknown. But that's where I'm going to take Brother Polite out in the great unknown. So.
That's hilarious. Yeah, bro, I think you made it very clear where you stood, where we at. And I definitely thank you for doing this. You know, again, you know, just making sure that people understand exactly where you stand when it comes to the debate.
Now, I've got some text messages that I love to see so that people could see the nature of this. I
mean, if you want to show them, I mean, we can. You know, I don't know if you want to do that. It's up to you. You want to?
Oh yeah. I no, I don't mind. It's because again, I want to prove the point. The only point in proving that, it won't show his number or anything. It'll just prove several points. Number one, that Polite previously agreed to the debate. He made a statement that, man, up to this point, we've never talked about marketing. Well, I want to show you the text messages where we're talking about marketing. Since he made that claim, let me show you where we have talked about marketing. So I want to use, again, his written words to show that we not only agreed on the debate, that we not only agreed on, we even talked about other other dates. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about marketing. We talked about venue. We talked about a lot of things. I just want to show you what these conversations actually look like.
I mean, if you want to do that right now, feel free. I won't be mad if you want to share your screen.
Yeah, yes. I definitely want to do that. I want people to see. I literally have absolutely nothing.
Listen, share the link. We're about to get some receipts, people. All right? We're going to get some more receipts. Please share this link. People need to be in here to see this go down. All right? Please share.
Right.
So go ahead, brother, whenever you're ready.
Hang on just a second, because I want to make sure that, hang on just a second.
That's right. Receipts. Receipts. We got receipts.
Okay. So let me just bring this up on the screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
And let's see. Application window. Is that it? And share. Okay.
Yeah, I should be seeing a window pop up over here for me. Is it on your web browser, or is it something that you're showing from your actual desktop? Because you might have to click like window application if that's the case.
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Sure. Yeah, it's about to get real. Share the link, fam. It's gonna get real ugly. You know, they like talking about primary evidence, right? Well, we got some primaries coming. All right. Definitely got some primaries coming. Hold tight. Share the link. We need everybody in the building to see this.
Okay, so I had this issue with StreamYard once before. Let me see if it will come up now on the
okay.
It's let's see that. No.
Yeah, you're sharing now, so go ahead.
All right.
Oh, you made a PowerPoint. Oh man.
Oh yeah. So can everybody?
Oh man.
Can everybody see this?
Can you present it? Like, can you make it bigger? That it is kind of small.
Okay. Let's see.
If you could, yeah.
Let me let's see if we can kind of resize that, make it a little bigger. All right. Hang on.
Sure. Please share the link, fam. Share the link.
All right, hang on. All right. How's that? Are we getting any bigger?
Well, I think if you could just share one column of the text and then just make that bigger.
Okay. Yeah, so there's so many of these texts. All right. So let me I'm not sure how I could, because I put 3 texts on one.
I think if you just had one text on the screen and expand that, then people can see it. I don't know if you can do all that right now.
Let's see. Let me see if I can go to view and just zoom. Let's see what happens.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hold
up. Can we see that, people? Can we see that, people? Put a 1 in the chat if you can see the screen. Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1. Let's see them ones. Let's see them ones. It takes a minute before I see it. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Put some ones in the chat if you can see the screen. Yes, a lot of ones. Okay.
Okay. So you can see here's the initial conversation. You can see the timestamp. Hey, so this came right after our first conversation. You can see his pleasantries there. Both of us sharing pleasantries, good talking to you, so forth and so on. So you see us, we talk again. It's almost a month later. You see me hitting them up. This is me. Let's reconnect and planning the debate. As we discussed earlier, we both anticipated some heavy beginning of the year traveling, which this far for me has been just that. You can see me making some contact with him. He's, oh yeah, I'm in Miami now, blah, 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 blah. So not really a whole lot. So when we finally do talk, we start talking about what are we going to call this? So this is a marketing part of the conversation. He told me that every debate needs a major name, like the Nation of Islam had the thing, Day of Atonement or something like that.
Right.
And so we did have a conversation about it, and so he we didn't come up with anything in the conversation. He hit me back the next day and was like, what do you think about the Last Supper or Judgment Day? There you go. Judgment Day. Let's go. Boom. Right. And so that's how that looked.
Right.
And so you can hear him saying, send me a picture of yourself. And how would you like to be called? Pastor Damon Richardson, Christian apologist. All of this is for marketing people because he wants to market it. This is the same man that said we never discussed marketing, right? So what do you think this is about? And I'm going to show you the word marketing in his usage. So I said, here's what I'd like to be called. This is Damon Richardson, Christian apologist. Let's talk later if you can. So you can notice that I'm the aggressor in always kind of trying to nail him down to conversation. So he's talking about his graphic and design people will create some sort of slide.
Sure they did.
All right. So I'm going to show you what they came up with. So you see this garbage right here. This is the first concept. This is what he's saying. Just to put something out there. Well, what is that? Putting it out there is what? Everybody say it with me. Marketing. Notice my graphic and design people. What are graphic and design people for? Say it with me. Marketing. Right? They'll create one more grandeur and better proportions. So he came up with this. And so you'll notice me saying, they're down at the bottom, then it's here. I was like, I like a more head-to-head look. Send me your pick, and I'll have a few creatives done, but it's definitely headed in the right direction. So I'm telling him I know guys that are.
I told you you showed me that joint. I told you holler at me. I could fix that up for you.
That's right. You absolutely did say that. And I told him we had a conversation about it, and I specifically told him I don't like the way it's looked. I don't like your image being larger than mine. This is a debate contest. You're not inviting me to one of your events where you got the bigger picture and that I'm the small guy down at the bottom. I said that sends a psychological message that you're the greater one in the debate. I said this is a head-to-head. So just like in a boxing match on a boxing flyer, you see two people facing off and their images are equally proportioned. That's not how Polite wanted to put it out.
Like the thumbnail for my video that I'm doing right now.
There you go. And so you can see him saying, you hear me saying, this one doesn't look like a debate. Your face is in a superior position, which inadvertently communicates inequality. Feel me? And notice he's talking about rate aspect rations and oh yeah, we'll make sure essentially we make one. We do this all the time. He says you'll literally get one where your image is larger. You know, all that is just dang on hustling is what it is. But so notice I said, well, I prefer to put the head-to-head out there, but I won't have a problem with you using this proportion in yours. True. And I'm closing in on the venue. The pastor and the location that I want was hospitalized. So, you know, we start talking about venue stuff. And we're back to the flyer stuff in this one. And you hear him talking a little bit more about how he's not really attempting. It's just art. I'm not really attempting to win the debate on the flyer. We'll work out the kinks in the verbiage, so forth and so on. But then he comes up with some other dates. What about July 5th? Around African Arts Festival weekend. I was like, well, that's the same weekend as July 4th. I said, when I used to live in Brooklyn, we used to be driving down south around that time. So I said, I just don't think we'll catch people in town for it. But notice what he does here. He still wants my picture. And then he tells me what's happening on this thing that he put on Instagram. 196 shares, 212 people saved the image, and it reached near 40,000 people. Does that sound like a marketing problem?
No, sir.
That's with his cheap flyer, the one he did on the phone. That's with the cheap flyer. So let's go on. So watch this now. There's another image of it, and so you could see
the numbers, right?
So certain other numbers. Now I don't see nothing about the 40, it reaching the 40,000 people. I don't. I guess that is 196 shares right there. But no, he's saying it's just stirring the pot real good. And I'm like, Instagram, that's nice. And he's like, oh, people are very excited. And I'm telling him a little bit about me and my getting off the phone with some of my Brooklyn people for the venue kind of thing. Then he comes back with a screenshot of a video that he did on Facebook. And he's saying he's doing.
We played that earlier, by the way. We played that video.
There you go. And he said 22,000 people seen it. 10,000 people watched it full inside of the first hour. That doesn't sound like a marketing problem, right? It doesn't sound like that at all. And then he, you know, there's some more info. He's talking about he's going to have 30 to 40,000 flyers done, as well as posters. And what do we have over here? So notice what I say. I say it occurred to me, and this is interesting because when I say this, my brother, BK Apologist, can attest to it. I was actually in the airport. I think I was in Phoenix airport, and I had a long layover. I called my bro, Alfredo, and we had a conversation, and we actually talked about this. So I went back and hit POLIGHT up and said it occurred to me that the third topic needs to be opened up so that you have a position to defend, not challenge. Because the third position was, is Christianity good for Black people? Well, that's not a position for him to defend. That's only a position for me to defend. And I said, what are your thoughts? And then I even said, promotion's going to be bananas, yada, yada, yada. And he said, that is semi the question when asked if Christianity is good for our people. However, I'll let you, however, you know that I yield to the Kemetic science. So yeah, I would love to defend something I stand on. So watch what we come up with. I tell him, there he is right there. I said, well, it actually remains part of the question, but by posing the same question to you, it puts the onus on you to prove that Kemetic science is the better worldview for Black people. And so I think the question we came up with is which worldview is better for Black people? That was the question. And then we got into a little bit talking about venue. It needs to hold at least 1,500 people, so forth and so on. And notice he's talking about new flyers, pages, timelines, encouraging, promoting is fun. So is that not marketing again, people?
Marketing.
I appreciate the level of cooperation and collaboration on your part, bro. That's major. And notice, we both going to eat. Says again, he's still concerned about money. Well, you know what? Okay, we're going to both eat. That's all good. I don't have a problem with that. But we're down towards the end. Let's look at what he says here. Whether they're holding your hand or mine, the fact of the matter, the people are in good hands. They're going to see a good debate, so forth and so on. I'm like, notice, that's what I'm talking about. Black excellence, Black scholarship, right? But then I say, notice now, this is not long ago. So this is where I start kind of getting back in contact with him. So much time had gone by. I'm like, POLIGHT, I say we press forward with the debate, but completely online instead of a physical venue, given the circumstances. I would propose an August date and that we both control 100% of our own streaming gate revenue and just decide on the moderator. Your thoughts? He didn't say nothing on the 23rd. I hit him again on the 26th with a copy of the same text. And then I said, let me know if you received this message. And he was like, got it. Connect with you tomorrow, figure it out. So I'm like, good deal. So again, 3 days later, it's the 29th now. POLIGHT, you free anytime today, bro? POLIGHT, we still doing this debate or no? Right? You see what I mean? And so finally he responds and he says, I say, let's talk through the final logistics, date and time. Yes, sir, I can build Saturday. Let's do a weigh-in live and play the big event by air because we never know. Weigh-in debate on live stream. I said, okay, let's talk about the weigh-in. I said, I like the idea, but let's talk about it on Saturday. So Saturday was that day that he comes on. I'll unshare my my screen. Stop sharing.
Okay.
So Saturday was the day that he comes on to talk about the weigh-in. Now, this is what POLIGHT said in the first part of the conversation that you didn't hear. I said, well, why are we talking about the weigh-in and not talking about the date and time? He said, well, let's just keep that indefinite and just kind of do this promotion and marketing about the weigh-in. I said, well, listen, man, people are asking me every day, when is it going to be? I don't feel comfortable with some indefinite tentative date that never gets decided on. I said, after all, when boxers are doing a weigh-in, they already know that Ortiz and Mayweather are going to be fighting June 23rd.
Right.
It's not, well, there's a fight coming up. We don't got a date yet, but we're going to do the weigh-in. No. You have a date. And that's what makes the weigh-in so great, is because it builds up the anticipation to that date. POLIGHT wanted to keep some tentative date, essentially just saying, let's just say it's somewhere late in August or September. I said, no, man. I said, it's a waste of my time to be on this call with you and we can't figure out a date. So finally he threw a date out, September 26th. I said, good, now we talking. I said,
so he threw the date out.
He threw the date out.
Oh, okay.
I checked my calendar. I said, that's a Saturday. I'm good with it. I said, so we're doing it online, not in person, right? He said, well, yeah, we can do it online, but let's play it by ear on venue. And then he went back to talking about the weigh-in thing. They wanted me to sit on, they literally wanted me to come to New York, sit on Sonetta's couch where they can film this.
During the pandemic.
I know about it, okey doke. You're not going to get footage out there, chop it up, throw it out there and say, POLIGHT crushed Damon in the weigh-in. This is just a preview of what's to come, right? I'm not going to fall for the okey doke. Like, number one, I'm your elder, so you can't run game on me. I know game, but when you didn't know the difference between cheese and butter, I knew game, right? So you can't run game on me. That's number one. Number two, I'm from New York too, and Queens is always making it. Brooklyn is always faking it. So
hey, watch it. Watch it. We was good until you did that now.
Well, we can debate on that too another time. But I'm just messing around with
right.
But the reality is that he was trying to run game. Don't try and steal my talking points. Don't try to get me on his couch where you guys can chop up the video and put some fake stuff out there. Because listen, POLIGHT is known to be deceptive. Just very same thing that he done to my boy Baron Clafe is he drew him into a phone conversation where they were just talking. POLIGHT secretly recorded it, then put it out there on YouTube. POLIGHT crushes a Dominican Christian Jew in a debate. My boy Baron didn't just thought it was a phone conversation. They were just chopping it up. POLIGHT, in order to be able to win points that he's destroying Christians, literally put it out there that he won a debate that was not even a debate. It was a phone conversation. And so if you want to try and talk about that's deceptive. And the reason it was deceptive was not simply secretly recording it. It was deceptive because when he uploaded it to YouTube, it was a false title. It was a misleading title of what actually took place. There was no debate. So that's your man. That's the way he played. So the reality is that he was playing checkers and Damon Richardson was playing chess, right? So that's the real deal. But there's no deception on my end. I want to debate this guy. POLIGHT doesn't want to debate because he doesn't want to see me. He said he came out of retirement. No. Whatever you call that, the reality is that you would get your career ended, right? See, it's better to retire on your own terms than to get your career ended. Mayweather is good at 50-0. It would be tragic for him to come back and lose to somebody because you can't undo that one loss, right? And so if you want to keep your so-called reputation, you know, in your bodega street corner arguments, then stay retired. But if you come out of retirement and debate me, your career is going to be ended, and your whole economic hustle in the conscious community is going to come to an end, because people are going to see you for the intellectual fraud that you actually are. I said that, right? So I said that. Mark those words, the intellectual fraud. There you go.
That was pretty amazing. I mean, I know you've been here for a minute, brother. I know your time is definitely precious, but could you stand a few minutes for some Q&A? Would that be possible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bring it on. Bring it on.
All right, guys. So here's your chance to speak to Mr. Richardson about the topic at hand, you know, so please feel free to ask the question. Please feel free. It was funny. You need to have POLIGHT on for Bodega Bible Talk. Yeah, I don't think he's coming through, sis. not after this. Damon ruined that for me right now. But come on, guys. Does anyone have a question for Damon Richardson? Now's your chance. I saw a few of you talking slick earlier. You can come back now. Thoughts on POLIGHT and
Sonnetter, essentially, yeah.
Having debates with the white guy that was a Christian and New Jersey twerk. So I don't know if you saw that. He had a debate with, bro, he had a debate with a battle rapper named New Jersey Twerk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Well, how you know, well, first of all, you know what? I don't want to discourage Twerk because he's one of those, you know, gun bar battle rapper guys. So for him to be like, no, I believe in Jesus and I want to defend Jesus. I mean, that's amazing. He's not equipped to do so. But the fact that he was willing to say something that was counter his brand was amazing.
Okay.
And Daylight was another battle rapper recently that also did the same thing with POLIGHT. So he's had two debates with quote unquote Christians.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
So, not people that folks would expect would really match him in his reputation as so-called learned or whatever, right? So they did the best that they can, but if he wants to really put his weight to the test, then he would debate with somebody that's more his class. So I think that's
right. Have you talked to Sonnetter or POLIGHT since Saturday?
No, I haven't. They have been silent. I'm sure that they are cooking up a video to respond to a lot of the memes and a lot of the other things that we've been putting out there. Essentially, you know, sarcastically poking fun at the fact that he was running all the stuff. Is this your king? And Mobb Deep references and all that other stuff. So we've been having a whole lot of fun with that. But again, don't get mad at us. Don't get mad at us. Take this medicine. Take it all. Follow it. Cod liver oil. It's good for you.
But POLIGHT hasn't taken the flyer down on his page. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, so the debate flyer is still up.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there.
Well, that only proves that he actually agreed to it. Why would you market something that wasn't solid already in your mind? You don't come with late game contingencies. You just don't do that. That's unethical, especially when you've agreed. So keep in mind, folks, I've got about 7 to 8 hours of conversation invested in this debate already. A lot. That's my time, 7 to 8 hours just talking it through with him. And so, I'm like, redeeming my time. I give me my time back.
Claiming my time. BK Apologist, how much preparation did you do prior to finding out the cancellation of the debate? I mean, the minute we talked about it, about coming on my channel, that's when I started doing. So maybe a day, you know. I mean, it's the information was there. You just Google certain things, you know. The great thing about the internet is once you say something, it's there. So the Facebook Lives, the Instagram posts, they're there. You know what I mean? And it comes back to haunt you. So
there you go.
Let's see what else we got here.
I love this background, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Looks very
Yes,
similar
appreciate
to something I have on my website. Yeah, good art, man. Nice art.
it. Nice. Any more questions? Any more questions, guys? Oh, this guy. Let's give this guy some shine. Damon, how much of your research comes from non-European sources?
Let me see. How much of my research comes from non-European sources? So, I mean, let's just be honest. Most of the published work that's out there is predominantly from European scholars. So let's just put it out there. But that doesn't mean that there's not a wealth already of Black scholarship. So on my on this shelf that you have behind me, a great deal of these books, at least 40% of my library is Black scholarship. And so, you know, but the majority of what's out there is European, and that's undeniable. And that is because they've had advantages in publishing companies. They've suppressed a lot of our work, so forth and so on. So most of what's going to be out there is going to be European. But the reality is that doesn't really matter either. The only thing that really does matter is whether or not the scholarship is valid, whether it's true, whether it's factual, whether it's tested. And so at the end of the day, doesn't matter who did the research. Has it been peer reviewed? Is it historically factual? Those kind of things, right? So at the end of the day, nobody's going to have a majority Black scholarship library because that just doesn't exist. But it does not undermine or undercut the fact that there are great African American and African sources of oh man, I can literally pull off. I got whole sections of literally Black scholarship, so I can pull that right off these shelves here. Right behind me is over, I guess, 750 books behind me. Literally 5 shelves on three bookcases, and so what is that? Over 15 shelves filled with books, and at least 30% of it is Black scholarship from African American sources and African sources. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Garfield from Dagger Squad? And if so, will you debate him?
I mean, I would debate Garfield, but the reality is that POLIGHT is at the top of the food chain in that circle, right? So I wouldn't want anybody. Why would I waste my time with a guy that they'll say, "Oh, that was an easy win for Richardson"? Why not just get the top man? See, if you get the top man, then I got Garfield. What are they going to say? Oh, you beat POLIGHT, now beat Garfield? No. If they beat Garfield, they'll be like, now beat POLIGHT. So I you know, it's not worth my time to meet somebody, you know, like what is it, young Pharaoh or somebody like. It's not worth my time to go after one of those guys. When if POLIGHT is your top guy, give me POLIGHT, so I can say after I beat POLIGHT, is there no one else? That's what I want to say. Is there no one else?
Mr. Jones again says, which sources can you name that are not from European sources that I can obtain?
Right. Well, I mean, again, you're asking me to come off the top of my head, like I'm a freestyler with these sources. If you inbox me, I can throw out a couple of a short little bibliography of different kind of books, but you got to give me more to work with. Like when you say sources, like what kind of sources are you looking for? Are you looking for historical sources? Are you looking for church historians? Are you looking for New Testament, Old Testament scholars? Are you looking for language scholars? Like what kind of sources are you talking about more specifically? And then maybe I can start narrowing it down. So my library works by type of resource first. That's how I got everything.
Not by ethnicity.
Not by ethnicity, right?
And this is where I keep my Indian scholars right here. And there, you know, like who, you know, but this is the light skin section theology, right? And these are no one does that.
Here's the Wesley Snipe looking guys over
there. You go. Beatrice says, do you think that he wanted a pre-debate on his terms to edit it to say he won and then make unreasonable demands so that you would back out of the actual debate? That's interesting.
That's an interesting angle. Whatever it was, it definitely was some real shady stuff. And so I noticed, of course, that he was unrelenting with No, unless it is exactly like this. When I was like, well, it don't have to be exactly like that, but how about I meet you in the middle and do it like this? Because does it have to be like that in order for it to sell tickets? So because that's not a good claim to make. What it's reasonable to meet me in the middle. Like there's no good reason why you can't meet me here and we both answer 3 questions in order to showcase, right? Like there was no good reason for him to back down from my concession. And so I do believe that they wanted to kind of do some editing and some cutting and the kind of, because that's how they do it out there. They come out with videos. And it's always, you see the Black Hebrew Israelites do the very same thing. They can get literally stomped on and obliterated. And then they'll put a video out 2-3 days later talking about Christian couldn't answer this question and ran, in the same video that he got the gut stomped out of him. And so all of this cognitive type dissonance that is really, really popular in the conscious community. So I wouldn't put it past them that they would have been up to all kinds of things to try to make me look bad and kind of one up going into the debate. So I definitely believe POLIGHT was afraid, but I think Sonetter's piece was to kind of get it on video, and that way they work together to kind of get some stuff on me, hear me talk, because they wanted to talk about, is Christianity the white man's religion? And that really intersects with several of those subpoints that we were going to be debating. So why would we talk about that? So they want to get me on, they want to hear me articulate so that he can know how to prepare. Well, the reality is that I do have that on him. I know how to prepare for him because he's run his mouth a whole lot against Christianity. And so I already know his talking points. And so I have answers already for his talking points. And so he can try to come with new ones. But, again, I've got answers for even the new ones, because, again, he can't come with something that hasn't already been heard already.
Right. Because there's a 2,000-year tradition of defending the faith. Like apologetics is not something that happened 4 years ago. You know what I mean? We've been defending the gospel.
That's right. That's right.
But speaking of the Hebrews, though, would Brother Damon debate Zion Lex?
Well, I would debate Zion Lex. It depends on what the well, I shouldn't say it depends. Well, in so many senses it does, on exactly what that debate would be about. And so if Zion Lex wants to debate that, for instance, the Torah is the only inspired, the first 5 books of the Bible are the only books inspired, and the rest of it, the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim, are not inspired, then I'll debate him on something like that, right?
That would be fun. I would like to see that person.
Because I believe that Zion Lex is essentially a Torah only Hebrew Israelite, right? So if you wanted to debate on something like that, I'd be willing to debate him. And it doesn't matter that he's got some reputation for knowing Hebrew or this, that, and the other. None of that means anything. It is that at the end of the day, he would have an onus to prove. I would have an onus to prove. We both have, the affirmative and the negative, and we'd have our own propositions to make. And, and again, I'd be willing to debate Zion Lex. I mean, but, I've seen Zion Lex in this same circle with guys like, Divine Prospect and this, that, and the other. And this is what I'm saying to you, some of you guys out there, is that if these guys were really tested academics and so forth and so on, then they need to get off of the street corner and Sonetta's couch and get in actual debates. You understand what I'm saying? Actual debates, not Sonetta TV sitting on the couch or, bodega type discussions. Get with guys who, so I don't know of Zion Lex actually entering into that. You know what I mean? I don't. I've seen some of their stuff, and it's just unimpressive to me.
Now here's a very important question: is this all a part of the marketing, Damon? What you're doing right now?
Well, listen, it's all part of marketing, indeed. In fact, when I did that one video, that was a marketing tactic. What I wanted to accomplish was to force POLIGHT into, and I told them, if you heard me, I said it over and over and over. Well, I'm gonna go back to my page and tell people that you're scared. what was I trying to do? Well, I know that a man has an ego. Men don't want folks to, call them out, press them on their ego with "I'm afraid." So I was hoping that in spite of all of his backing out, that after he hears enough people saying "Polite scared, Polite scared,"
right,
and all that other stuff, that he would finally say, "All right, Damon Richardson, let's debate." So yeah, that was definitely a marketing tactic. I have no ulterior motives. Everything is out on the table. All my guns are right.
You do have an agenda. You have an agenda.
That's
transparent. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, speaking of agenda, since we're not going to have a debate, of course, life continues for Damon Richardson. So, what are some things that's coming down the pipe for you, sir, that we can be aware of?
Gotcha. Well, one of the things that I'm planning, especially that I've got more time working from home and doing some of these demos and so forth and so on, video demos. Well, I'm definitely going to be putting out more premium content on the urban.
Well, when you say demos for what, sir?
Oh, they might not know. So I'm also I also do national presenter for Logos Bible software. And so I do a whole lot of demoing during the day so that people can find out how to get resources in order to be able to study the Word of God and to do research. And it's a library and a research tool that brings all of that to you in one place. So I'm a national presenter for that company, and so that takes up a lot of my time. In addition to, of course, doing apologetics work. So I'm going to come out with some more videos on the Urban Logia website. So there's the Urban Logia. Subscribe if you can, Urban Logia Ministries, and you'll see a whole lot of my stuff that I've done on Facebook, and then I just kind of upload it over there.
Make sure you put the link in the chat for the website and any other contact information you might have.
You know what? I don't know the link right offhand. If you give me a second, I can definitely get around to
Sure. Okay. I'll talk to the people real quick.
Yeah.
What's going on, brother George? He's in the building. He says Logos is fire.
Oh, yes, that's good, man. It definitely is. And anybody that's interested, if you would if you go, I'll just type this in, logos.com/Damon. You literally have about 2 days to take advantage of a 30% discount. After that, it is going to be 10%. So the price is going to drastically change. So that is my discount. So 30% discount off of any one of those libraries. And so definitely take advantage of that. I'm on my YouTube channel, and I just want to I guess I've got to go into settings in order to be able to find it. My specific, hang on just a second.
Ooh, brother George, you got the platinum package. That's a flex right there, brother George.
Oh yeah, you're doing
flexing.
So here it is. I'm gonna put the link in right here.
Okay.
You can tell I'm old school. I'm doing the whole www. Let's see, youtube.com/C Urban Logia Ministry. Let's make sure that's right. Double check that. Boom. There you go. So that's the link, and you'll find a whole lot of teaching. Some. You'll find a couple of debates and a couple of little things on there. But my actual website, urbanlogia.org, you will find some premium content there. You'll find Exegesis 1 and Exegesis 2. You'll find 4th century church history. And you'll also find a teaching video, a webinar on the gospel against its Jewish background. So they're about, I'd say about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So essentially it's like a course condensed into 2 hours, but it's really highly informative. And I think the videos only cost like $20 or $25, and but they're on there. So you're going to actually get more content coming real soon, and hope to be putting out some really, really good content. So there you go.
Cool. Is there any other social media? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a
Uh,
Facebook page?
I do. Yeah, my Facebook page. So the follower page, there is an Urban Logia Ministries Facebook. There's also a Damon Richardson, kind of your what do they call that, fan type page.
Right.
I'm really mostly, honestly, I'm just a simple guy. I'm really mostly active on my regular page. Unfortunately, I'm maxed out at 5,000, so you can still follow. But the other pages, honestly, I'm not so active. People set that up. Even Instagram, I jump on Instagram every now and again to watch other people doing stuff, but I rarely ever post. And I gotta really probably get a social media team of people. My boy Jaqueline, my dude, I love you, man. Appreciate your work as well. And but I probably need a social media team to kind of to manage some of that. And Outer Bridge, that's right. He did get the discount 3 weeks ago. People are loving this tool because it allows you to be able to study, do 40 to 50 hours worth of research compiling in literally a matter of minutes, and it's
Nice.
incredible. Yeah.
Nice. So, in closing, brother, any final words about what we just spoke on?
Well, just as it was in the beginning, so it is now. I definitely want to debate. So I want this debate because I just believe it is so important for the culture. Obviously, for the cause of Christ, that's number one. But for the culture needs to see something like this. They really do. And there's so many major implications to it. And so hopefully Polite is not so offended that he will say, you know what, man, I let's go ahead and make this debate happen. Because there's really no reason why it can't, other than he threw a monkey wrench into the game. Let's get it on, as Marvin Gaye would say. So September 26th was the date he threw out. I'm ready to be there. I'm ready to show up and do what I am able to do to the glory of God, rambunctious and all, to the glory of God.
Gotta keep that same energy. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that same energy. So I hope that somebody listening can probably get through to Polite and say, man, this guy wants to debate you. What you going to do? You know?
Yeah. Definitely share this video on all his platforms so that he could see clearly that Damon still wants to tussle. All right. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that being said, sir, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank you for giving me that shout out during your live, which of course puts a bigger target on my back. Thank you very much.
Oh like, man, man, if you don't mind, man, there's so many other people, and I'm often remiss when the opportunity comes, because sometimes I'm very bad with names.
Right.
There's some people that are doing some great things. The brother that just popped in, Jaqueline, he's doing some good stuff. Pastor Troy Goss down in New Orleans. Pastor Isaiah Robertson in Georgia, he's doing some great things. And then what can we say about Nefertiti? I mean, listen,
killing it.
Listen, folks, listen.
Killing it.
Nefertiti is one of the sharpest Christian apologists that I've come across in a long time, and she's put out a lot of stuff that I have referenced myself. And, you know, just literally, I run through her videos just like everybody else. And I'm like, oh, that was a good point. Let me use that, you know, and because this is a community, there's a whole lot of sharing of information. And so just that folks can know there are some women out here in the apologetics, Christian apologetics game that are tough to deal with. I know Dr. Sarita Lyons, she may not consider herself to be an apologist, but I mean, certainly her skill level and sharpness in the word of God definitely makes her an apologetic threat. Then you've got people like Dr. Kimberly Credit, who actually is a scholar and a professor, a seminary professor, but one of the first, I think the first African-American female to actually do a doctorate degree in Christian apologetics. She actually teaches preaching apologetics, and you know, there's a lot of Kim. You've got not Kim. You got, I was about to say Kim Fields. You got Lisa Fields,
Right, June
with
3,
June
right,
3
right.
project, and you know, she's known obviously more for facilitating, but obviously you don't want to sleep on her. She obviously knows her stuff. Just there's some solid women out here doing some apologetic work as well. And what else we got? Shout out to Miss Titus too. Don't sleep on Miss Titus too. That's right, absolutely.
June 3.
Absolutely. And don't hold it against me. I sometimes I'm just remiss on names, but I
Right,
run
right.
across people that I'm engaging and interacting with all the time on Facebook that are really, really sharp. So in reality, Polite, I mean, there's really nobody over here that he really can give a he can't give a run for he can't give nobody a run for their money. Not over here.
Right.
And you know, he may give Zion Lex and Zariak and those people, but over here in holiness, we on
He
a
said over here in holiness.
level with this thing, and he ain't ready for it. He thinks he's ready for it, but he ain't ready for it. So yeah.
Amen. Amen. So with that being said, this is Damon Richardson, BK Apologist, signing off. Catch us on the flip side.
All right.